Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Run. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. Michael Rudnin, what are you doing to me, sir? My God, he has a whole lot of pre-read. I probably won't get to all of them, but let's go ahead and see what you're talking about. I love my peeps. They go out there and they do the research so that we can have a fruitful and a great show. Anyhow, Michael Rudnin, thank you in advance. Why Fox News is having a day-long meltdown over Dr. Seuss? Is this really what our nation should be arguing about right now? No, this is the daily distraction from other more worthy issues. In a world where 2,000 people are still dying each day from COVID-19 and Congress is grappling with issues like a $1.9 trillion stimulus bill and major voting rights, this focus on Dr. Seuss is silly no matter what. But making it even more ridiculous is the fact that 5 minutes of research indicates all the outrage is much to do about nothing. Absolutely so. I'm not even following that story. But here's the joke. That is what they have to do because right now, that what's going on in Congress, the American people want. 70% of the people want. If 70% of the people want and you have the obstructionists working on it, what do you think is going to happen to the poll numbers of the obstructionists? It's going to go down. It's going to go south. Anyhow, second item that Michael Rudin wants to talk about. Fact check. Will Georgia bill make it a crime to give food and drinks to voters? The ruling? True. In other words, if you go ahead, and I read about that, that's sad. The Georgia House of Representatives passed HB 531 on Monday. The bill would make it a crime to give free food and drinks to voters. If that rule is violated and enforced, it could result in a misdemeanor charge. The bill now moves to the state Senate. Republicans are taking voter suppression to new lows. Walter Snob, these racist vote restrictions are targeted with pinpoint precisions, one position of the bill. Let me look. Let me stop there. Because a lot of people will say, well, that doesn't matter because it's enforced everywhere. It's true. It's enforced everywhere. It is statewide, Georgia. But here's what happens. In black neighborhoods, Latino neighborhoods, in neighborhoods of people of color, they have longer lines because they have less voter machines, etc. That's what they do in these places. And what that means is the way we keep those people voting in those lines is we make sure and provide these people with what? Water, and sometimes we take pizza over and all these things to these people to make sure that they're taken care of. Well, guess what? Guess what? If you do that, you can't feed the people, give the people water as they wait because the state didn't do their jobs. Now it's a crime. Are you kidding me? That is voter suppression 101. You do it without seeming to be because the law applies to everybody, but the underlying reason for having people been fed and given water is not taken care of. Okay, how to stop the Manchin presidency and raise the minimum wage. Dems must vote down the must-pass COVID bill until it includes a wage increase, which they can add right now. I hope Americans remember this moment when they were struggling and the so-called centrists and conservatives teamed up to prevent sufficient aid for coming their way. I disagree with that. The way to fix this dynamic is for a decisive number of House Democrats and senators to make it clear, line in the sand, and demonstrate they will vote for democratic legislation that does not honor those demands, and they must do so specifically. Okay, I'm not going to read all of that, but let me tell you, I cannot agree with that particular modus operandi. And the reason I cannot, and by the way, there are 8 Democratic senators, I'm doing an article on that actually went against that. Here's the problem. There are people that are genuinely hurting. There are people that are going to lose their homes. Guys like Manchin don't give a damn. Guys like the Republican senators that are against this, they don't give a damn. They don't have the empathy to feel what these people feel. Remember, Manchin's daughter is a corporate CEO who socked people with that the EpiPen. You can't expect anything out of those people at all. So what we have to do is fight the best battle we can. And let me tell you what Manchin has up his sleeve. Manchin has up his sleeves right now that if they mess with Manchin too bad, he's from a state where he's one of the only state. I think he's the only statewide Democrat in his state. It's advantageous for him to just say, I'm a Republican, just like his governor did. The governor of West Virginia did as well. The governor of West Virginia is genuinely a Democrat, but he realized that the psyche of that state is Republican, so he just became a Republican, and he still does Democratic things. Think about it. He still wants a big bill. He still wants this big bill, this big He's not arguing about it. He's telling Republicans, hey, guys, you need to pass a big bill. So what if some money is wasted? That's the Democratic governor turned Republican of West Virginia. Manchin would do that as well. And if he did that, immediately the Senate is a Republican Senate. So we have to be careful here. We have to be what's the word that I want to use? We cannot screw ourselves here. We have to appease Manchin until 2022 when we get a Democratic senator probably from New Hampshire or one of these other states, and then we can cut Manchin's legs off. But we cannot do it now, in my humble opinion. Okay, next one. Senators move to repeal same presidential war powers after airstrikes in Syria. I hope Congress ends the authorization for use of military force. There's three major benefits to this. Biden's foreign policy will be improved, as Biden will no longer be required to respond to every provocation and won't look weak for not responding. That's a very smart point. In other words, he needs Congress's help not to look weak, because based on precedents, he has to act. Otherwise, the politics gets really rough. The Gulf Stream is slowing to a tipping point and could disappear. The current could slow down to a point of no return, altering the climate on both sides of the Atlantic under status quo emissions. The Gulf Stream, also known as the Atlantic, is likely to shut down by the end of the century. There's no guarantees that human civilization will even be around by 2100. Are you trying to depress me? Anyhow, folks, go ahead and read that. Hey, thank you, Redden, for all those pieces. Good entry to the show. Let's go ahead and get started. But before, Tax 77, welcome aboard. Michael Redden, welcome aboard. Let's see who else is here. Brige, MCP, Corazoncita, welcome aboard. Paul Fleming from ATL, welcome aboard. Nanette Bird-Smith, hi all, welcome aboard. Para ver quién más está aquí. Let's see, Deborah John, welcome aboard. And I think I called all the people that have actually sent in. Let's talk about what the show is going to be about today. The show today is going to be a good show again. We are going to talk about GOP Senator checked by MSNBC host on COVID relief bill, minimum wage. And we're going to, I'm going to play over a minimum wage piece that I did for you guys a while back. And I think I have the wrong Jen Psaki thing loaded. So let me go ahead. I'll delete that shot, and I need to put the right Jen Psaki shot in there. Otherwise, if I don't get that right shot in there, it will be the wrong one, and I got it. Okay, let's go ahead and start with the piece from. Let's go ahead and start with the piece from Hallie Jackson, and then we'll take it from there. MSNBC Hallie Jackson did a great job with Senator Braun from Indiana. He was the one that's going to come and tell why it is that the Republicans don't like this bill, because it's not targeted, because this bill will do harm. Let's take a listen to this, and I'll break in a few times to correct a few things that maybe Hallie hadn't gotten as well. But she did a hell of a job in pushing back on this guy. Check this out.
Republican from Indiana and a member of the Budget Committee. It doesn't look like any Senate Republican is going to be voting for this bill, but I have to ask your own constituents. 60% almost of GOP voters, according to a new Morning Consult poll, actually favor this COVID relief bill. Why ignore them?
So when you take that across the country and you look what's in this bill, where there's something for everyone, I think when you look at a place like Indiana, I spoke to the governor just a couple weeks ago and said, hey, do you need it? We had a big rainy day fund cash reserve in place pre-COVID. We were the lowest in the Midwest in unemployment level. Great business climate. I've lived there and built a business over 37 years prior to coming here. And Hallie, the difference is it's so different by region. In the places.
Okay, here's what I want to do. He is so proud of Indiana. Indiana in its austerity. Indiana in doing all the things right. They somehow don't necessarily need the money. Oh, really now? You know why they may not immediately need the money sometimes? Because if you take a look at the states, and let me put that on the screen for you. If you take a look at the states that beg the government for money, that gets a lot of money from the government, check this out. The states like Indiana is ranked number number 11th, or actually number 14th in states that beg for money. In other words, for every dollar that they put into the United States government, into the federal government, they take out $1.37. In other words, they are a beggar state. They are a welfare state. We are supporting these guys, and then they come out and they say, my God, we are doing just fine. We don't need that stimulus package. When you're already getting a stimulus package every day throughout the year. So let's be frank and let's make sure that we don't allow these guys to say things that completely confuses the issue. But let's continue.
Where you had a real austere approach to COVID before I left in March, said we got to be careful, respect the disease, also watch how you handle the economic ramifications. And a place like Indiana is nearly back to full employment. I visited restaurateurs and their employees, upset about maybe minimum wage changing, where that's working so well for them. So places like Indiana, I can tell you my constituents don't want to borrow more money. The governor affirms that. The only thing we have to replenish is our...
Wait, the governor affirms that we don't need the money, and the people who are making peanuts, they just love it. They just love making a little bit of money. They don't want you to touch the minimum wage. They don't want you to give them any more money. That is pretty rich. Now, let's continue.
Employment fund. Everything else is done well because we had a good business climate, great economy. 8 of the 10 states benefiting from the state and local government package. Top 3, New York, New Jersey, California, the hardest, longest.
Okay, great. I love when they do things like that. Oh, those blue states are getting more money. They forget to tell you those blue states have a hell of a lot more people. California has orders of magnitude more than Indiana, so does New York, and so does New Jersey. They forgot to tell you that. But here's the thing. Let's look at these states. When you look at a state like California, what do you know about California? California puts in more money to the federal government than they take out. New York puts in more money to the federal government than they take out. New Jersey puts in more money to the federal government that they take out. In other words, they're not beggar states. They're not takers. While Indiana is a taker state, New York, New Jersey, and California are not. It is important that we have perspective. These states that like to claim, oh, we have low taxes and we have all these things, yeah, they can do that because they're begging for the rest of the money from the blue states. That is the fact, and we need to let people understand that. The conservative methodology with finances has always been a failure with a facade of somehow being effective.
Shutdowns, and that's why it's different across the country.
That is, I understand that's a common talking point from the GOP. Red and blue states, as you well know, both benefit or would benefit from this COVID relief bill. But I have to ask, when you talk about Indiana being in good shape, other states around the country simply are not. You've got targeted relief here for low-income people, more unemployment insurance, child tax credit. You talk about not wanting to spend more. Spending more was okay for members of your party back in the Trump administration when there was no discussion or very little discussion about the deficit. Why is it a problem now?
I am for all of what you just said because you modified it with targeted. From the get-go, those most in need, small businesses, should have been helped even to a greater degree. But this is only 9% towards COVID-related stuff. A lot of it has nothing else to do with it.
That's actually not true, Senator. I don't want to have to go into a fact check back and forth with you here, but for the broad impact, I just want to make sure our viewers are clear here, for the broad impact of the economic impact, for other issues related to what we've seen in this pandemic, there is far more than 9% in that bill. So let me I just want to keep it focused here.
I don't disagree with a lot of what you're intending to do. I want to help those who need it the most. We're borrowing every penny of it. When I got here, 20 trillion in debt, the size of our economy. We're soon to be 30 trillion after this gets through. You cannot keep doing things like that and expect this place to be there for all the people that come here and that are dependent upon it. It doesn't make sense to me.
Let me let another one of your colleagues on the other side of the aisle rebut that point, if you will. Here's Senator Chris Murphy on the very issue that you're bringing up, the idea that this is too expensive. Watch.
It's a little hard to listen listen to my Republican colleagues claim that this bill is too expensive when they were willing to spend the exact same amount of money in 2017 on tax cuts for their wealthy corporate and millionaire friends.
Tax cuts were just as expensive. There was no pandemic. There was no immediate economic crisis to address then. Why the change of heart for your party?
All I can tell you is when that occurred, we were creating an economy that was actually raising wages the old-fashioned way by competing for labor in the hardest places. African-American wages, minority wages across the board. We as a company...
The very communities, as you know, who are still struggling, as we just saw in the jobs report out this morning.
Targeted relief at anyone that wasn't participating then, especially accentuated by COVID, I'd be for it. And what was working pre-COVID, what I see from the Obama-Biden years ago, and what I see from the Biden-Harris approach, we're going to have bigger problems down the road because you're taking away some of the benefits that were accruing to the entirety of the country.
I will note that many economists point out that the reason why the Trump administration was successful in its economic efforts was because of what was put in place from the administration prior.
And for that, we should say, booyah. Here is the reality. Donald Trump was benefiting from all that was invested during the Obama-Biden 8 years economy. And what had he done? What had he done? Same thing that Bush #2 did. Same thing that Reagan-Bush did. Ultimately, they tanked the economy, and we had to bring somebody in to go ahead and fix it, usually a Democrat. Remember, Clinton passed the bill that balanced the budget with 0 Republican votes in Congress. Remember that Obama fixed the crash, the economic meltdown of the world with no Republican votes. It is important for people to understand this. They destroy, the others build. Why would we be looking for economic advice from these people? Why would we be asking them what we need to do? Why would we even take their advice when they do not know how to govern and they only know how to take and steal from the pot, our pot? And that's important. You know, if you go ahead and follow, you know, there are a lot of studies out there. If you want to see when our economy do well, put a Democrat in there. And it's not a statistical error. It is by 2 points. That's huge. Eric, what are points again? What are lots of pork? Please define pork. Welcome aboard, Lisa Riggin. It's so good to see misinformation and lies being fact-checked in real time. We can never let those lies go unchallenged. You're absolutely right. You know, people have a tendency to call a whole lot of stuff pork that government does, right? And in the past, they used to have these things called allotments, or there was a name that they give it that McCain got rid of. I don't remember. Come on, guys, give me the name of that policy that every congressman would say, I want to put this into the bill. I want to put this into the bill. There's a name that they gave that. They got rid of that. That's one of the worst things because that eliminated compromise. That eliminated, if I want to get a Republican guy to vote for this, I'll give him something for his district, and then he'll vote for the bill. That's a good thing. That is earmarks. That's what it is, earmarks. Earmarks are good things. If I need to get a bill, and I'm a congressman in Timbuktu, and I want to build a stadium for my kids in the high school to do something. Yes, earmarks are good. A lot of people are like, oh, this is pork. No, it's not pork. It may be pork to everybody else, but for that particular district, it is something that they need. You know, it's a society. We all put together and we scramble to get things done. It's not pork. You know, Republicans did a very good thing using the Cato Institute, the Heritage Foundation, and they made these good governing principles something bad. So now people say pork, and it's bad. Earmarks, and it's bad. Liberal, and it's bad. You know, no. These are good things. They actually move us forward. It's what has moved this country forward. If you want to see when we've started stagnating to the core, it's when we started to adopt these conservative policies. Look at the degradation of our infrastructure. Look at the degradation of all these different parts of our society. It didn't occur when liberals were on the ascent. It occurred when the moral majority came in. The moral majority came in and they thought they could do stuff. But the fact of the matter is they are unable to govern because they don't believe in government. They believe in paid laissez-faire. Anyhow, one of my good friends now, I love this young lady. She's the White House press secretary. And I think she is likely one of the best press secretary we've had. Because this woman knows how to smile. This woman knows how to slice you to pieces with a smile and a certain type of dignity without you really realizing what's going on with you. Let's check this out and we'll take it on the other side. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki strikes again. She really knows how to use reporters' questions. Let's go ahead and listen to this and then we'll take it on the other side.
Go ahead.
I know you're focused on the COVID bill, but when the American Rescue Plan was first introduced, President Biden was very encouraged that there would be bipartisan support for it. It does not appear that there will be any bipartisan support for it. Republicans haven't voted for it yet. What is the level of confidence then on the next big legislative agenda item like infrastructure? Were there lessons learned in sort of the engagement or the reach out? I'm just sort of curious what that would look like.
Well, first, bipartisanship is not determined by a single zip code in Washington, D.C. It's about where the American people sit and stand. And the vast majority of the American people support the American Rescue Plan, including Republicans. And so I think really the question is, why are Republicans in Congress who aren't supporting this package outliers in where the American public is in moving this forward? And on infrastructure, I don't have this in front of me, but I'm sure you all have lots of research assistants who can look at who has supported infrastructure in the past. And many have spoken to their support for infrastructure packages. Many have Republicans, of course, and Democrats. Many have discussed it with the president. And so we're certainly hopeful and confident that repairing roads, rails, and bridges, doing better by our caregivers, reforming our outdated tax system, our steps, and anything else that was in the Build Back Better agenda. A lot of those pieces are pieces there's been bipartisan support for in the past.
Did you see what she did there? That was excellent. I don't know if you captured it, but it's not important that the American populace in large capture exactly what the technique that she used, just the result of the technique that she used. What did she do? He asked about the bipartisanship and the presidency, who wants to be a president of unity and bipartisan. Then she goes out and says, bipartisanship means that this stuff supports both Republican and Democrats alike. And if we do the polls, all the Republicans on the outside, they like what we're doing by quite a large percentage. So who is the outlier? The Republican politicians in Washington are the outliers. Then she used infrastructure when he continues to talk about bipartisanship to say, wait a minute. Remember, these same Republicans have constantly been talking about doing infrastructure, not only with Biden, but with others. So it seems to me like we should have no problem with bipartisanship where infrastructure is concerned, because guess what? We both want it. So therefore, if we have some issue with bipartisanship on infrastructure, it's going to be a political issue on the part of Republicans. Jen Psaki, excellent. But there's a part that I've even forgot to say in that piece that I did there, and that is, notice what she said. All of you reporters have your researchers. So she's given them a job. Go research, and you will see that all those Republicans, what they stood for. So that when we bring the policies out, when we create our infrastructure bill that pulls what all those Republicans said they wanted into that bill, what the Democrats wanted into that bill, then what it means then is we should have no problem with bipartisanship. She didn't evade the question. She answered it for a change. Too often we have, in fact, I wrote a blog about this on Daily Kos, and this is what I said. It's a very important part. I said, I love the manner that Jen Psaki uses to take control of her newsroom. What makes her good is that she does it with a smile as she is slicing through many. Her wit and pleasantness easily magnetically captures one's attention. When a reporter attempts to once again ad nauseum put into the ethos that Joe Biden is failing at the bipartisanship, she answers, not in a defensive manner, but on offense. It is a technique that as time goes on will ensure that the silly questions are either not asked or if asked, seen for exactly what they are, which is what we have to do. It's very important. Jen Psaki is a gem for the Biden administration, and I hope that the people that are her understudies that will have to come out when she needs to take a break see exactly what she's doing, because it's very, very important. Okay, Lee Grant, welcome aboard. I saw some new people come in. Lisa Riggin, welcome aboard. Para ver quién más está aquí. So let's see. Look like we have some people talking here. So let's go ahead. I'll tell you what, I'm going to break here and start talking a little bit about what you guys are posting online, and then we'll move on. Deborah John says, Dr. Seuss was promoting racism since slavery days in his children's book and was accepted. He demonstrated black faces, lynching on black Americans. He spoke about watermelon chicken, all that kind of stuff. It is amazing because I don't want to talk too much about this particular issue with Dr. Seuss and all of that, because I didn't even know about Dr. Seuss. I'm from Panama. We didn't grow up on books like that, okay? But I find it very, it tells much about the people who are making that we want to take out the offensive portions of Dr. Seuss and all these other guys out of the curriculum. It boggles the mind that anybody would object to that when you are putting into the people's psyche a demeaning characterization of something. It behooves me. It shows me that many people who think they're with it are you know what. But here's what, I remember telling my daughter once, right? We are here in Kingwood. And my daughter, everybody learns that Christopher Columbus discovered America. Cristóbal Colón descubrió América. Christopher Columbus discovered America. We all learned that. And I looked at my daughter and I said, when she was young, she was in elementary school. And I looked at her and I said, okay, babe, Christopher Columbus, this is what you learn. That's not true. Okay? There were people, it's Christopher Columbus discovered America for the Europeans. That is what should be taught. Because you have a native kid in your class who heard, Christopher Columbus is so great, he discovered America. No, he didn't. And not only did he not discover America, he was an awful person to the Native Americans. He killed them, he used them as slaves, he did all kinds of things. So don't ask, if you want to glorify him for Europe, that's fine for you. But don't expect others who he damaged to somehow feel a loyalty to Christopher Columbus. Don't expect that. Because as far as he's concerned, the native person in class learning about Christopher Columbus, all that person see is pain. It's amazing, right? We have this stuff with Cuomo. Cuomo is asking this young lady who about her rape condition and so forth, which is horrendous. Cuomo, that was horrendous. And everybody sees the pain of that young woman. We should all see the pain of that young woman, and she shouldn't have to go through that. Why should that native student have to go through knowing about or folks glorifying the person who came and supposedly discovered them, raped them, maimed them, killed them? You see, the double standard and the things that people don't see. What Fox News should do is say, they were so right to do that about Dr. Seuss. It is so right to take out all those things that shows the pain of our history on people that are still here. Just like you don't want that rape victim to feel that pain. Just like you don't want your relative and all these people to have to confront the pain of their oppressor day after day after day after day. Right? It's just fair. But fairness have a tendency to be colored by hue. That is what we have to think of. If you really want to be a person who cares about people, if you really want to care about everybody, I'm not a Native American. I wasn't here. But I feel their pain. You'll never hear me say, oh, Christopher Columbus discovered America. It's crazy to say that. We learned it, but it's crazy. Okay, Lisa Reagan says, it's good to see. Oh, I read that one already. Okay. Hayes says $350 billion. I'm not going to touch that one. Let's see. Target funding can improve communities. Earmarks and pork are good ideas. It is. And not only that, you can negotiate for even if you're in the minority. Earmarks give you the ability to make deals. And that's why we could get things done. Because while ideologically I'm against you, I may want something in my district. And I make a deal with you. And if you do this for me, then I'll support you. It's back and forth. It's a good thing. Okay, deflecting and not answering. She was not deflecting. Egberto, you haven't weighed in on Mr. Potato Head issue. I'd be interested in you just heard my perspective on all those types of issues. And that is, I will not talk about the founding fathers being the excellence of virtue. They did a good thing by putting an elastic clause in the Constitution. But as far as they're concerned, I mean nothing. As far as I'm concerned, I'm 3/5 of a person. As far as they're concerned, women have no value. As far as they're concerned, only people with property rights, only people who own property could vote in this country, were considered real citizens of this country. Those are truths that very few people want to accept. They want to live in their fantasy. And in living in their fantasy, what they do is they hurt the whole country as a whole. When we accept that all countries are born from machinations and sin and all of that, and we've evolved and we come together to form a great union because we all know we're trying to make all ourselves better. That is what's good. But not living in some fantasy that those guys who didn't care a damn about women, myself, and others should be glorified, or that Christopher Columbus did a great thing, or that somehow the Mexicans coming over the border is such a bad thing when folks came from across the ocean, came to this country and killed the people to create another nation. Come on, guys, be fair. Let's be fair here. Lee Grant, scroll up to the top. Chat, maybe you'll see what you're being distracted from. I don't know what you're talking about. You can put it again in there, my brother. Michael, there were people already on the islands that Columbus discovered. Yeah, and then Columbus killed off a large number. Yes, exactly. Vikings discovered. Columbus never set foot here till later. They hurt the natives. Absolutely true. Leif Erikson, I remember about it. Leif Erikson came 500 years before Columbus. But even when Leif came here, there were natives here already. History is taught to make the U.S. look superior. That's what it does, Nanette Bird-Smith. Michael Rudden says, replying to Bridge MCP, yep, you beat me to it. Okay. You hate America but migrated here. I don't hate America. You see, that binary thought that you cannot criticize something is what's wrong with the right. It is important to be able to criticize to make things better. Eric Hayes, dealing and pork is what is wrong with politics and the good old... No, dealing is important. That's reality. That is politics. Politics is wheeling and dealing. That is what makes things happen. When you go buy something at a store, that's what you're... Well, that's not true. Capitalism causes us to conform. What it does is it says the only person with pricing power are the masters, right? Because you can't say what the prices of gas only by not buying it if you can't go anywhere. But that's another story for another day. Okay, my dear beautiful people, my dear beautiful. Potato Head is now gender neutral. Wow, what's the problem with that again? Okay, Lisa Riggin, so true. The only way to do better is to know where you were. Lisa got the sentence of the day. Lisa Riggin got the sentence of the day. Remember that sentence that she said. So true. The only way to do better is to know where we were wrong. I can only do better as a person. If you tell me what I probably have not known that I have done wrong. And that happened to me when I changed from being a homophobe to a person who become a gay rights person. And it happened to me, remove my sexism. When I knew I was wrong, that's how you correct oneself. All right, folks, I need to stop right now to do my little bit of asking right now. If you're on YouTube, please go ahead and click that join button to become a member of our posse, the PDR Posse, named by British MCP. And you can also go ahead and get one of our cups or one of those things. I think I still have the cup in the list here. Yeah, you can get our cups. That cup was designed by one of our members, British MCP. And you'll see pictures of Linda E. who bought it, as well as Norman Reynolds, who's going to come up next after that. If you don't see the join button on the Facebook page, here is the link to it. It's you can see that link right there, which is politicsdoneright.com/YouTube. Again, that is politicsdoneright.com/YouTube. You can also support us by becoming a part of our Patreon. That is politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. Politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. Patreon is spelled Patreon, Patreon. And you can, of course, support us via PayPal. We love PayPal as well. Politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. Now, you see that book that I saw on the screen right now? That is my book that says we need to all get along. If we can talk, we learn how to talk to your right-wing friends, your left-wing friends, all that good stuff. Please consider getting that book at Amazon. That is a link that I put there. But you can also get that book at our store. Our store is at politicsdoneright.com/store, politicsdoneright.com/store. And by the way, you can also get it at our Instagram. Our Politics Done Right is our Instagram handle, and Politics Done Right is our page on Facebook. And you can find all this stuff right there as well. If you want to get that cup designed by British MCP, go ahead and get it right here. Join us and support PDR. Thank you, Norman Reynolds. Welcome aboard, AVQ. Okay, guys, now let's continue with the show. I want to play a piece that I played this several, I said this several shows down, but it's important because what we're going to talk about now is the minimum wage, and I want to give the preamble to the minimum wage. But by the way, guys, if you're on, go ahead and click that join button, become a member, or throw us a super chat by hitting that $sign on YouTube. But here we go with the minimum wage. I don't think progressives, Democrats, all of us have really made the appropriate case to show exactly how evil 725 is in 2021. We've had 725 for 11 years or more. And we have to also remember, however, that if we had indexed the minimum wage for inflation, it would be north of $20 an hour. Okay? Now, there are a lot of people who say, oh, this is just entry-level work. So therefore, since the people who are doing this work, it's entry-level, by somehow raising this minimum wage, you're going to create a problem with that employer because now he's going to lay people off because it costs him more. Wealth transfer, income transfer, and wage theft is a very insidious thing. There are a lot of different ways of doing it, right? You can actually have wage theft by simply not paying the wage that somebody made. You can do that, right? In other words, if you're making $100 a week, your boss can simply say, I'm going to hold back $10 and not tell you you're just not getting it. That's wage theft. But there are other ways we can allow our system itself to effect wage theft. Here's how systemic wage theft works. Let's say we have an average inflation rate of 3%. And let's say the minimum wage were $10. I'm just doing it because it's easy to calculate. The next year, that minimum wage is supposed to be, if it's 3%, right? That would be $10.30. Let's say it's 3% the next year. The next year it would be, your minimum wage would be $10.67 or 68 cents. The next year would be $11, etc. And people would say, but wait a minute, what is that doing to the employer? Well, if you take a look at what the employer is doing, right? The employer is buying more product at the inflation rate cost, and he doesn't go ahead and say, I don't want to pay the 3% inflation cost on the products that I am buying. He just buys it because that's what it costs. Likewise, when his profit increases, because if he sells a piece of bread for $1 and inflation goes up and he now starts selling it for $1.10, he continuously makes more money based on inflation. But he does not want to give his minimum wage worker that profit as well. So In effect, he is creating income inequality because he's freezing this guy's income while he continues to pay more to the people who sell him the flour, to the people who sell him the fat, to the people who sell him all these different things. He doesn't have a problem paying them more, whatever the market will bear. He doesn't mind paying them the inflation rate that's going. He doesn't mind because his prices of his products has increased because of what he has to pay. He doesn't mind making more money so that his salary is indexed to inflation as well, meaning he makes more profit. The only person who suffers in this capitalist system is the worker, the person who they try to remove all power from. You get a union, they try to remove the union. They want to take away your union. They want to take away your ability to bargain, to say, hey, you got to pay me too. It is an orchestrated wage theft. Inflation or minimum wage not indexed to inflation is wage theft. Let's go a little further. McDonald's used to pay, let's say $3, let's say the $7.25 an hour minimum wage. Their prices of burgers and everything went up. They still bring in those workers at $7.25 entry level. The worker who worked in 2010 for $7.25 is making more than the worker who comes in 2020 working at $7.25. And guess what? That means that new entry level worker can only buy less than his earlier entry level worker. It is wage theft by design. It is income transfer by design. It is wealth transfer by the design of the system. In other words, your employer, by having a minimum wage that does not index to inflation and having a low minimum wage, what they're doing is they're sanctioning wage theft. And one of the things we don't do when we express these things is we don't express it in the language that's true. Oh, we make it seem as if we are doing the low wage worker a favor by increasing the minimum wage, making things a little better for them. So thank you so very much. Thank you for doing that for us. When in reality, all we are doing is stopping wage theft. Think about that. And that is what we have to start naming. We have to name what it is. It is wage theft. Now we are having all kinds of problems with Joe Manchin. You know, people think about, okay, Joe Manchin doesn't want to pass the $15 minimum wage. But, you know, he's doing more than just a $15 minimum wage. He also wants to tank the, according to Daily Kos, actually, let me go ahead and pull that up because, but like I said, Manchin has us exactly where he wants us. That's the bottom line. He has us exactly where he wants us. Because if we come down hard on him, he's going to jump ship and McConnell becomes the leader again. He'll jump ship and become a Republican just like his governor did. And I'm kind of wondering if that's not what he's wanting to do here, using this as an excuse to jump ship. Look at what Daily Kos is saying now. Daily Kos just released a new article. Who needs Republicans like Senator Ron Johnson to sabotage President Biden's first major and absolute critical proposal when Democrats have their very own Joe Manchin? The West Virginia senator, for some unknown reason, has ground the entire process to a halt because he doesn't want people who have lost their jobs and are surviving on unemployment insurance to be saved from having to pay taxes on those benefits or have the peace of mind of knowing that those benefits will be there for them into the fall. If this is ego, does he hate the unemployed? It's not that he hates them. It's not that he hates them. He doesn't get them. These guys are in the stratosphere. They are completely detached from from people in general. They cannot see that over the last 30 years, people have been making less and less. He cannot see that if you go into the barrios, the ghettos, and Appalachia, that you see the same people living you see many families living in one home. Everything keeps going up for the capitalists, but the problem is people don't really understand what's going on. And that's why we are here, and that's why you are here. You have to let folks know this stuff. They don't know who's hurting them. They don't know that Joe Manchin is terrible. They don't know that he's really killing them. Now they want to drop the monthly the weekly from $400 to $300. As if, oh, that's too much money for them. They're not going to want to go back to work. Are you kidding me? Look, this is what happens when we allow the misinformation to go on and on. And by the way, the misinformation isn't just from the right wing. This comes from Democrats too. Establishment Democrats. Joe Manchin. This is no joke when you see that it's 8 Democrats who just joined GOP to vote down Sanders' $15 minimum wage amendment. 8 Democrats. We went out there and we got 81 million people to vote these clowns in. 81 million people. Never happened in American history. That we made a promise to. We are going to do it. One of the reasons we need to get rid of the filibuster, but there goes Manchin again. He holds the keys. We're going to have to bribe him for something. Look, our system is only broken. Again, here I want everybody hearing this to understand this. Our system is only broken if these politicians think we're not watching, and if we're watching, that somehow we're easily misled. And how do we solve that problem, folks? The way we solve that problem is we make sure they are informed. There are some people that it doesn't matter what you tell them. They will buy the party line. They're mental slaves. But most Americans are not mental slaves. We have a lot of mental slaves, okay? We have a lot of mental slaves. You know, they are always there for the people who screw them. You know, it's like the house, you know what, in the slavery days. A group of slaves on the field are trying to figure out a way to escape bondage. And then you have that one that gets a hold of it and he runs into the house. Massa, you know, they're thinking about leaving. They're thinking about escaping. That is not just a black thing, a slave black thing. That is a human thing. And when I tell you right now, Americans are antiseptic slaves, that's what I mean. The only reason that Manchin feels he can do what he's doing is he feels there are no consequences. If you take a look at what Michael Rodnin just wrote on the screen. This is how Democrats lose. Democrats have to get people to realize Republicans are screwing them. Scratch $400, Senate Democrats back $300, weekly unemployment benefit extension, and UI tax forgiveness. Look, here's the thing. You had another message in there that was important about how poor West Virginia is. Who wrote that? Let me see if I can find that. West Virginia is a very poor state. West Virginia's former Democratic governor, who became a Republican, told Manchin, we need to get this bill out there. We need to give people relief now. If it's too much, a little bit, no problem. We need to get it out to prevent the economy from cratering and to help people, to make sure people can live. Give people a break for a change. And he's going to play these games. This is where his phones need to blow up. This is where we have to be blowing up his phone. Hey, Manchin, this is what we are not asking you to do. This is what you will do, or we will primary you. We will primary you. It's so, so, so important. Anyhow, let me go through the list to see if there's anything else that I need to add to the list, or add to the things people ask. Wokeness is so wrong. I don't know what that means. Anyhow, going down, Egberto Lee Grant asked about Mr. Potato Head. It's a distraction from more important issues, which I try to list out at the start. And you did list out very well, and I think we covered them with all the things that we covered today. I think it's important. Keep reading my blogs as well. I blog not only at egbertowillies.com, but also at dailycoast.com. Visit dailycoast.com. Great articles out there, progressive articles, factual, fact-based articles. And please go ahead, and if you want to know when my articles come out, every time I write a new article, I send out a tweet. It's done automatically. I send out a tweet. I send it out on Tumblr, send it out on LinkedIn. So if you follow me on LinkedIn, if you follow me on Egberto Willies on Twitter, if you like our Politics Done Right page, or if you go to our Instagram, our politics done right. It's called Our Politics Done Right because somebody else took politics done right. So it's called Our Politics Done Right on Instagram. Okay, let me continue reading the messages here. Eric Hayes, the reality of politics is often tit for tat. If every state gets something good out of a bill, it's more likely to pass. Exactly. If we are talking about, and you see, the selfishness about Braun, that the first person that I put on is like, my state don't need that, so I don't want it in the bill. But your state needs something. Suppose New York says, I don't need to refurbish my unemployment system, so I don't want that in the bill. You see, it's all about a bona fide way of being selfish. Selfish. Nanette Bird Smith says the two words are not necessarily. Okay, guess another conversation. Michael Rudnin says $15 per hour is $30K per year. If you look just at rent prices, you quickly it's realized quickly that it isn't a decent living, and half the country are at that income level or lower. It's sad. It is so sad that even many people that are in these conditions don't understand who is at fault and why they must do better. All right, let's see what else we got here. We have he's a Goldie, won't fit on a Okay, Eric, hey, there's your pork dealing. Yeah, we need to have pork dealing. I'm for pork. Let's see. This is I read that one already. Egberto, did you read up on the bond issue? I didn't. The new. I haven't. I haven't gone and made a big issue out of the bond because there are a lot of other subjects. Can't do all of them. Manchin just won his election. He's got 6 years in office to screw people with impunity, and that's why I'm talking about 22. Because in 22, if we re-elect, what's the name of the guy from Georgia? Not Ossoff, but Warnock. If we re-elect Warnock in 22, and we get one of those other senators, you see, the Republicans have a whole bunch of senators up for election in 2022. So we should do very well in 2022. All right, Egberto, the bottom line is that Republicans do everything possible to stop Biden policies from succeeding. It's not only Republicans, Deborah, and that's why we have to tell the truth. It's not only Republicans. Investigate those 7 Democrats who voted. Oh, so you did get it. Thank you very much, Deborah. Eric Hayes says people getting killed because of bond issues. Okay. All right, let's continue. Let's see how much time. Oh, wow. It's 57 already. I better start calling people out. Welcome aboard, and thank you for being here. Eric Hayes, Deborah John, Paul Fleming, Bridge MCP, Michael Rudnin. Let's see who else is here. Tax 777, Nanette Bird Smith, Norman Reynolds, my brother. Let's see, AVQ. Let's see who else do I got here. Somebody just posted. Eric Hayes, later, buddy. Let's see, Norman, I got you already. I think I got just about everybody that I called earlier as well. If I didn't get your name, put it in the bottom of the list, and I will be more than happy to do it. But in the interim, folks, please go ahead and go get my book at Amazon. You can get it, or you can get it at our store. I'm putting all the links in at the end of the program real quickly. You can go to politicsdoneright.com/store. You can provide us support via politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. You can also provide us support via politicsdoneright.com/PayPal, or just go on to YouTube and click join if it's there. If the join button is not there, go ahead and click politicsdoneright.com/YouTube. Folks, I could not do this without you all. You know that. I tell you that every single time. I thank you all for being here. Have a great weekend. I'll be working. I'm working on a couple of books. So on the weekend, I get a little bit more time to write. I'm working on a couple more books that we're going to have out, I hope, by May sometime. So let's all share these programs, but not only share them. Let's talk. When you're on YouTube, when you're on Instagram, when you're on Facebook, when you're on Tumblr, when you're on all these platforms and you see something silly, please say something. Don't just look at it and shake your head. Say something, and if you don't want to particularly say something, just suggest, hey, why don't you check out Politics Done Right? Why don't you check out dailycoast.com? Why don't you check out egbertowillis.com? Why don't you check out politicsdoneright.com? Why don't you check out opednews.com? Give them, don't only tell them they're wrong, engage them, give them somewhere to land. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I end this baby. I am what? Out! We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number 1, subscribe to our channel, and number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.